Good afternoon, folks.
Hello.
I am fairly confused by the YouTube's bouncing around. So first of all, the lag with YouTube is really, really bad today. And second of all, it's EV Mux and YouTube are showing up different watching numbers. So I'm wondering I'm wondering whether we're gonna have a comments lag or too as well. So if there is, I apologize. That's what's going on. Hello, Simon. How are you?
Yeah,
Sound
I'm
issues aside.
doing good.
Good, good.
How are you doing?
Uh, I mean, as well as can be expected.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna do kind of a brief thing in case people have missed it. So I'm not quite ready to talk about this entirely yet, but I got some really bad news at the doctor's office the day before yesterday. I now know what panic attack feels like. Um, and I am still sort of sporadically emotionally all over the place. So I will probably do some sort of posting when I'm a little bit more with it, or I have possibly some more details. In the meantime, everybody, please be patient with me. I appreciate it. So we are here to talk about B.E.A.R, a very B.E.A.R system. I thought I would start off. They have a little video unboxing of their first hardcover copy. So I thought I would start off by sharing that, provided, of course, I can make things work. I'm not going to share the audio because it seems to make us echo like crazy. So I do have to say, I don't know. I always have like mixed feelings about the dust covers. I mean, I get they have a purpose, but in my house, all they do is get torn, and then everything doesn't look as pretty.
Yeah, I like a book that's got a dust cover but also has a printed cover underneath it.
Well, that would definitely make it easier for when it gets torn,
Yeah.
because it's not if it gets torn in my house; it's when it gets torn.
Yeah, same. But it's nice to have a nice looking dust cover until it gets torn.
Yeah. Legatus, this is the publisher's video, not mine. So, no, these are not my hands.
Yeah, they're not hooves.
Yes, they are not hooves. Though, to be fair, if you notice, my hooves have been surgically modified so I can hold a whiskey glass. I think the one thing that Simon and I both agreed on, like, immediately before this ever even, like, we ever really got into the meat of this was we really do like the art.
Yeah. The art and the layout, both of which aren't by the person that made the game, but
That isn't saying that it's not the person who made the game did not do a good job, but um
do you want to full screen me actually? I'm just going to show the credits for it.
yep, give me just a second.
So
Are you in a
artwork
position
by
where you can show the cover too? Because I
I
would
can
love
show
that.
the cover. I'll just quickly credit Rachel Henry for the artwork, which is fantastic, and the design and layout as well are both brilliant, and they're by David Wortman. So before we go any further, credit where it's due. They've both done a fantastic job on this project.
Yeah, I have never heard of Rachel Henry, but man, I want to see more of her work. And I am not usually really driven a ton by the artwork in a game. To me, it tends to be kind of secondary, but I love this is supposed to be kind of a system agnostic thing. And the fact that each of these like claw things in the background has a different genre, um, I thought was brilliant. And I almost didn't notice it at first. Like I just again, I don't tend to pay a lot of attention to most artwork unless it's really kind of in your face. And then I took a second look and I was like, ooh, like I can see something new every time I look at this. And that is the kind of artwork I really like.
Yeah, it's really good.
I also can't figure out if the title of this game is actually Bear or if it's a very Bear system.
Yeah, the title is confusing, and it only the acronym is only used in the title. Really, it's not like other games where the acronym is your stats or something. It's
Hmm.
they've
Well, I
it
mean,
feels like
GURPS.
they've just tried to make Bear the.
Well, GURPS is generic universal role playing system. I mean, that doesn't really come up.
I suppose, yeah, but GURPS. I've always thought the name of GURPS was shit, so I think it's a fair
and and yet
comparison, really. I think the name of this is shit.
and
Um,
yet GURPS has been around like forever. So
yeah, but you
I would
don't
say
play
it's
GURPS because of the name. You play it
I
because of the rules, and it's again the same with this. Like, I don't like the name. There's a lot of other things I like about it.
now people still do tend to buy according to marketing though. So I would say the staying power is is disagrees with your.
Yeah, I'm not a marketing person. Um,
Well, I mean, I'd be terrible at it because I don't care much about art. So
yeah,
uh, I did realize I kind of skipped past the whole greeting the chat thing, probably because I was panicking we weren't going to get started on time. But I do want to say hello to Legatus, who has been here for some time. Matt Funcool, who says good afternoon. Afternoon to you too, Matt. Goofus the Doofus gives us a goose honk. Thank you for being a member and for supporting the channel. Davyverse, also channel member. Thank you very much. Uh, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it. I'm really better off if I stay busy. That doesn't mean I'll be reliably busy, but Gayo, also a channel member. Thank you so much. Uh, and our user of goat emojis mostly.
I suppose before we start with the review, should probably introduce who I am as well. I'm Simon. I'm nobody. Um,
I was gonna get to that. I was gonna do the chat and then
I
I scanned the chat though, and I'm pretty certain everyone in the chat knows who you are because you've been here before.
Yeah, I'm Simon. I'm a man with opinions, and that's what the internet is for. Um, Goofus the Doofus, go and subscribe on Twitch to the Majestic Goose Network, because I play on an actual play on there, and if you're goose honking in here, you can goose honk in there as well.
My my husband also goes by Lord Gucifer the Morning Honk.
Yeah, so he really should be subscribed to the Majestic Goose Network.
And Rachel, hello, hello. And I kind of bounced over this one just because I want to do a quick shout out here. Eraser, thank you very much. We are still trying to help Rachel move to someplace where her mother can be safer. So if anybody has a spare cup of coffee that they don't need, if you can toss that in the kitty. Every
And
little bit helps.
if anyone hasn't already donated to it, then you suck.
I
Um,
mean,
I mean, I've
to be,
donated to it. Like at some point, you will have had like $2 or something. If
I
you're here
mean,
regularly, go and give them some money.
to be fair, I haven't, but I don't even have the money for heat in my house, so
Yeah,
hopefully I
you
don't. Hopefully I
okay?
don't suck too. Hopefully I
There's
don't suck
obvious
too much.
exceptions, but if you have at some point had the money to buy a cup of coffee or something, then you've had the money to help somebody out. Forgo a cup of coffee and help somebody out.
But then Simon did say he has strong opinions about things.
I do, yeah, but I've also put my money where my mouth is, and I have donated to it. So um, at least I'm not a hypocrite, I guess.
This is true. That is the one thing we are not crazy about on this channel is hypocrites. Um, layouts. So I have very strong feelings about the fact that all games should have a table of contents and an index.
Yes, I'm not so worried about having both as long as one of them is functional.
I am because it is my experience that no matter how good the table of contents is, at some point in time, I am going to need to look something up by way of some word that never ever would reasonably make it in the table of contents. It is always, there's always something that's kind of like in a spot that my brain doesn't think that that's where it belongs. Because,
Yeah, I did find this book very easy to navigate when we were talking about things that you didn't like or that I did like. The find option on a PDF actually did bring up everything that I was trying to find with it and not loads of stuff that didn't need to be there. And
well,
I
this,
don't think that's a deliberate thing. I think it's just that coincidentally, the things that you might want to look up don't have other words that are similar.
um,
But it is a plus point nonetheless.
yeah, I mean, and PDFs I think are different because you can always do the find search option. Um, I tend to still like books, so frequently when I run games, I have books.
Yeah.
There is no control F for on a book.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm very much a digital person when it comes to rules because for the majority of the time I don't need them.
well, you run
I don't want
online
to
a lot
carry the
too,
book.
right?
Sorry?
You run online a lot.
I run online, yeah, but when I'm running in person, if I need the rules on something, I'll just get my phone out and look it up.
I like the fact that the table of contents on this is very thorough. I can't remember what it was. There was a game recently that I was looking at that I was trying to find something and I looked in the table of contents and realized that it only had like 5 divisions and they were all like these really vague poetic titles. Like they didn't actually tell me where anything was that I needed. This is You are right. This is quite easy to follow anyway, um, compared to some, and uh, and the table of contents is great.
Yeah, I'm just going to mention as well, like, I would normally just scroll through the book to get to the table of contents or wherever we're trying to get. We're not allowed to do that, so you're going to have to put up with my face and nothing else while I'm scrolling. Um,
Yeah. So yeah, for the record, the publisher of this gave us free copies in return for doing this, but one of the specifications was because they are kickstarting it right now, they could not. We couldn't just scroll through and show everything because they're worried somebody's going to steal their stuff, I guess. So we can show some stuff, but we have to kind of jump from page to page. We can't just scroll. So, hello, battery.
What I
Um,
can do though is from the table of contents, I can just click on where we want to go. So that's
oh, interesting. I made the mistake. Instead of using capitals, they use like teal lettering, which I also really like, by the way, because the overuse of capitals is something that I have a pet peeve about. But I keep assuming because it's teal that I can click on it and go to like some definition of that term, and that is not the case.
yeah, I got caught by that as well because it looks like a hyperlink.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe doing it in a different color would have been better because they use the colors that are very similar to hyperlink colors. Um, I mean, I figured it out pretty quick. I was like, wait, this doesn't actually click. Um, and I do like the fact that they went with a color instead of the capitalization. I think it works much better,
Yeah,
and it drives me a lot less crazy.
yeah,
But it
it
does
makes
that.
it very easy to like skim read as well.
Yeah. Um, but I do think the color choices looked too much like it. Like if, I mean, again, if you had a hardcover book, you're not going to be looking for a hyperlink. But
Yeah,
Matt, I'm sorry you
but
don't feel
that
good.
also leads me to another point actually that I read the entire book in around an hour. Like it's not difficult to read, which is nice for a rule book.
You did far better than me, but I was busy taking a ton of notes and arguing with you about whether or not things things worked. So,
Yeah, well, it took me longer than that because I was messaging you in the process and stuff. But the actual reading, it took about an hour for the whole book.
yeah, it's
And
I
I
like the
don't think
fact that
that.
most of it does not try and there is a thing lately in games where people are so busy trying to use new terminology and like fancy words in order to seem different that it makes it really hard to read the book. Um,
Yeah,
I think I probably took quite a lot longer than you because I compulsively like have to check comma usage and editing as I go all the
yeah.
time.
So I don't care if there's loads of spelling mistakes in something. That's not my job. I mean, I care when I'm reviewing it in as much as, oh, there's loads of spelling mistakes or there's punctuation issues, but I'm not actively looking for every single one of them.
So that being said, considering that this is I do not think this is in its final stage yet. Simon, you said the Kickstarter said they haven't finished playtesting.
Yeah, so let me get the Kickstarter open and I will share that on my screen. One,
Um, in general, this was one of the cleaner manuscripts I've ever seen for an indie not yet published. Actually, it was cleaner than some published uh, games I've seen. Um,
so I just searched very bare RPG. Don't do that.
I mean, I have the link open, I think, somewhere. I have so many things open right now. Oh no, maybe I shut it down. Never mind.
What might be a good idea actually is if somebody posts the link in the chat so that other people can visit
Hang on.
the
Yeah, well, it's in
Kickstarter for the thing
the
that we're reviewing. That's probably a
yeah, there we
sensible.
go. There we go. Eraser's got it.
Cool.
As Eraser is the master of
There we go.
link.
A very bare system. I was looking for a very bare RPG, and it was giving me some very different things.
Well, that just sounds kinky. Yeah, I need like I need a way to give Eraser like a very special little star thing that just makes him like Lord of the Links.
Well, that was something that you gave me a mod roll to do when Eraser wasn't there. But
Yeah, but I don't think I was able to give you like a specific star thing either. I mean, he's modded.
Yeah.
He and Legatus are the super mods, but
Uh, let's see if I can get this window into OBS.
it feels like if it feels like if there can be a Lord of the Dance, there should be a Lord of the Links. So this does not have an index. I should clarify. It does have a glossary of terms, which is, I mean, I'm kind of okay with. An index would be better. There are a lot of appendices, like a lot of appendices.
Trying to make sure I crop out all my bookmarks and stuff. There we go.
Can't just full screen it, huh?
It's OBS. It gets everything from the window.
No,
Which
no, no.
I
I meant the window itself.
okay.
Doesn't
So
matter.
we've got
You made it work.
a very bare system. So I want to critique the Kickstarter itself before we go on to the rules book
Oh, Battery
because
has a really good point. How did they miss the opportunity to describe the game requirements as the bare necessities? That would
yeah,
have been great.
that would have been good. So we'll start with the Kickstarter. They've got their proof of it, which they've utterly failed to include bleed on. Hopefully they'll fix that on the production one. Right, narrative first.
Simon has
This
strong
is
feelings about this too.
yeah. I have opinions. This is not a narrative game. It's not. I wouldn't even describe it as necessarily rules light.
Yeah,
Um,
I would be more willing to describe it as narrative than rules light, actually.
yeah, it's got just enough crunch, in my opinion. It's not like a crunchy game, but it's not rules light, and it's. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a narrative game. I think they're trying to use keywords to get people to back it, and there's going to be some people that are going to be quite disappointed when they get it.
Well, and the funny thing is that I don't tend to care for games that are described as narrative based.
Yeah,
I A lot of games that are described as narrative based, that's really key for I wanted to write a game, but I didn't actually want to have to like go to the trouble of making up a system or rules. So I'm just going to write down this story and these random ideas I had, and everything else I'm just going to say is like up to the GM and the players to narrate. Um,
so we've got
but
the
this I thought had a pretty good. I mean, I have issues with it, but I thought the balance of rules and setting and system was pretty good. And I tend to like very crunchy games. So
yeah. So it does say the goal of a very bare system is to provide a mechanically robust framework that supports play without dominating it, and it does. But in order to do that, it can't be a narrative game. It's got to be a rulesy game.
I wonder sometimes if people understand what a narrative game is, and whether or not people just tend to think of it as being um uh I'm trying to
It's like
think.
Spiel is what I would think of as a narrative type game, like that you say what's happening kind of game, rather than there are rules and you have to roll to see if you can do things.
Well, what I'm reminded of is I had somebody on once who had in their game description that it was a beer and chips game. So when I wrote my description, I just wrote rules light. And they messaged me and said, "Oh, this isn't rules light at all. It's actually quite crunchy." And I said, "Well, your website says it's beer and chips." And they said, "Yeah, because we like eat chips and play beer while we're." And I'm like, "That's not what beer and chips means."
Yeah.
And they just didn't understand that what a beer and chips game was. They just heard the term and thought it was interesting, so they used it in the game description. I feel like that might be what happened with narrative here. You know, it was a buzzword, people use it a lot, but I'm not totally certain they understand what it is they're saying.
Yeah. I mean, what this game actually is a reasonably crunchy D6 dice pool system. It's
Hamster says, "Well, chips are crunchy."
like it's a good, reasonably crunchy D6 dice pool system, and I'm gonna give my opinion on things on the basis of what it is rather than what it says it is.
Yeah, but it's bad marketing.
It is, and that's why I wanted to highlight the Kickstarter before we go into the book itself, because
Yeah, I mean, if I were, because I'm not crazy about the term narrative game, if I saw that at the beginning of the Kickstarter, I would immediately have clicked away and not backed it.
yeah,
Whereas this, if I weren't horrifically broke, I might have backed.
yeah, and other people who are looking for a narrative game in the traditional meaning of a narrative game might back this and then be disappointed.
Yeah, and then they're gonna like after the fact they're gonna give reviews about like this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah,
Yep, it's an issue.
so yeah, market it for what it is. It's a good game.
Make
Just
sure you understand the buzzwords you're using before you stick them on your game description.
and player agency at the center of play. I don't see anything in this set of rules that is any different to, like, for example, a generic BX clone fantasy RPG
Yeah,
in
it is
terms of
absolutely
player
not.
agency. It's just a set of rules, and the player agency comes from how you run the game. And
It's absolutely not player agency when the first thing they say about character generation is you have to go to the GM and find out exactly what you're allowed to play.
yeah,
Like,
or that you're not allowed to play certain things. You can't do certain things, but you can do certain other things. There's specific rules. Like I think you brought up the example of a blacksmith. That's I'm gonna get that page actually. It's under professions, wasn't it?
yeah, which I had marked off, but I have like 6 pages of notes here. I'm sure we weren't going to get to all of them. I didn't give it a chance to. So I read it and then I went back and I started making notes. Um, and I only got to make notes through like the first 30 or 40 pages. So I'm sure we won't get through all of mine. I'm nitpicky. Yeah, professions. I
Okay.
have I have things to say about professions. I
Yeah.
love
So
the
we've got
idea.
here
I
like
love the
for
idea of the
blacksmiths to
professions.
they may gain a bonus to their roll to forge a horseshoe, or a botanist to identify a plant. Makes sense. But a blacksmith won't get a bonus to shoe the horse, and historically, yes, they would.
Yeah, blacksmiths shoot horses. That's exactly what they did. Farriers are a very recent uh, thing. I mean, they probably existed like if if you had someone who did nothing but take care of the horses in a castle, maybe. But like if you lived in a fairly rural town, your blacksmith was putting the shoes on.
Yeah. So I guess if you're gonna that's probably a complaint here is if you're gonna use examples of things, make sure those examples are correct.
If you're going to use examples around animals, talk to somebody who spends a lot of time around animals.
Yeah.
um, I think Simon might disagree with me on this. I have a real issue though with the fact that you cannot get bonuses for attack or evade if it's a profession. So if your profession is pit fighter, it's totally useless because you get no bonuses whatsoever for all the things you'd be good at.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. So I think when we were chatting, I gave you the example of the traditional fantasy RPG party where you've got like a fighter, a rogue, a wizard, and a healer. And in this game, the fighter doesn't get any bonus to fighting,
But everybody else
and
gets bonuses.
he doesn't get magic, and he doesn't get any healing skills because he's a fighter, not a healer. And he's not a thief, so he doesn't get any thieving skills, so he's just a guy.
Yeah, there's a real I mean, I suspect that this is where the whole narrative thing comes in, is that they're trying to make this about more than combat. But what they've done is really hamstring anyone who does combat.
Yeah, so so a rogue would potentially get bonuses in combat because while they wouldn't get a bonus in the actual attacking, they might be able to do some acrobatics or something that then impacts their ability to kill somebody.
Yeah, but weirdly
Um,
you can't even dodge. Like the rogue can't even get a bonus to like getting out of the way.
yeah,
Um
I honestly think they should just scrap that rule because the only purpose that it serves is to make fighters a redundant class.
well, I mean there don't seem to really be classes anyway.
A redundant profession.
Yeah,
They have, well, they do have classes as groups of professions, and they give examples of martial professions,
right. And none of those are going to
but none
go.
of those martial professions would actually get any useful bonuses.
Yeah.
Like a big game hunter might have a big gun, but anyone could use a big gun,
Well,
and you wouldn't get the
apparently you get
bonus for using it because that's an attack roll.
well, I don't know. Maybe you get bonuses for shooting animals but not people, which just makes no sense.
Yeah, that's completely illogical. Why not
So,
just let people have the bonus for attacking if they're a martial class, or a
so
bonus for defense? One or the other.
yeah. There
Don't
are
give them both, but give them the choice of one or the other, and that's what their character gets.
well, I mean you have the stats. So like you can either get a bonus to tough or you get a bonus to I don't know. I also have strong feelings about the nimble versus all right, I have to look at my notes now. Nimble
Oh, well,
versus
this
what's the other one?
the five different stats where if you're looking at it as though it's D&D, they've basically split dexterity and merged strength and
Yes,
constitution.
yeah, swift and nimble.
That's,
Well, my issue well, actually, can we go to that page? What page is that?
yes, I can't scroll to it though, so I'm going to
Page 18.
quickly skip back to the Kickstarter.
Um, I thought it was interesting because I do think that dexterity tends to cover an awful lot in D&D. I think it's weird that there's so much stuff, but the problem is that there's too much overlap between swift and nimble, and the definitions they've given don't match the examples they give. And the same is
Yeah,
true. The same is true for tough and cunning. The definitions they've given do not match their examples. So tough they have as basically being constitution in the definition, but then the examples also include strength.
okay, here we go. So you've got
Um,
swift, which would include climbing and jumping, but the nimble includes acrobatics, which includes climbing and jumping.
well, and Swift has athletics in yeah, Swift has athletics, but Nimble has acrobatics.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, if somebody throws a baseball at my head, Swift is whether or not I can react in time, but Nimble is whether or not I can catch it.
Yeah, so I would, had I made this system, I actually would have just had four qualities. You don't need them to be split because it's just going to cause confusion.
Yeah, if you're going for rules light, I would have combined them. If you were going for something crunchier, I would have actually made more categories. I've never understood why people are so reluctant to make more than 6 qualities. or attributes or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, tough is endurance, stamina, and constitution. But then as an example, is breaking restraints or lifting, both of which are strength, not endurance and stamina. Um, Astute, I don't think is too bad, but cunning, which is very much defined as a social skill, involves repairing things, which makes absolutely no sense.
So if tough was described as actions relating to strength, endurance, and constitution, you'd have no issue.
I think it makes it confusing when your definition and your examples clash, especially considering that in Swift and Nimble there's already a lot of gray area.
Yeah, but ignoring swift and nimble, because we've established that that's stupid. Um,
I mean, I would
you
still have the issue that I know lots of people who are strong but have no constitution, and I know people who are tough but have no strength.
yeah, and these are going to be limitations in multiple systems, though. Like, I
Well, that's
hate
why I said
constantly
if
using
they
D&D
wanted,
as an example, but it is the most popular game. So, like, your charisma is, let's say, you're horrifically ugly to the point that people are scared of you, and as a result, your charisma is ridiculously low. But then you make an intimidate check, and your horrific ugliness has your charisma score, which means that you can't intimidate people with your horrific ugliness.
actually, most systems say that in when you have things like that, you are allowed to use a different stat, as I recall.
Yeah, so they have to rely on workarounds when they
Um,
exist.
but that's
That's
what
that's
that's
that's the point, though, is that you can't cover everything with the rules, or you end up with GURPS.
well, but even GURPS, you take the core book and then you add in the specifics for what you want.
Yeah,
No one is running GURPS with every GURPS book. Um,
that sounds like a challenge.
I mean, feel free if you want, but hello, Pastor. Um, no, but that's why I was saying, like, if they were serious about making this rules light, then combine them.
Yeah,
Like the issue is that you've tried to be so specific with one set of skills, and then you have others where you've just glommed everything together. So do one or the other, like combine nimble and swift, and just have like 4 attributes, or if you want it to be crunchier, which actually seems to be the way they were going, then just have more attributes.
I'm gonna need you to confirm or deny this, but hit points were split into mind, body, and soul. Was that right?
Oh, yeah, so I had that down as a note. Somebody apparently played a game in Numenera and then decided they wanted to tack that rule into their own game. That's what that felt like.
Oh, mind, body, and soul is like a tri-stat system that's used in all kinds of things, but then they've just made that your hit points.
But that's how Numenera runs. Numenera has that tri system,
Yeah,
and that is literally your hit points. And it's a pool system in exactly the same way. It's both your hit points, and in order to use certain abilities or correct failures, you spend from your pools. It's exact. They have exactly taken the Numenera system,
which is
except that
fine.
except that in Numenera it's the prime system and it's the only thing that happens. With this, it's very much like they took a D&D system and then tried to tack Numenera onto like the fifth step of it.
Yeah, but they take what they've done here, from what I can tell, is they've taken what they like from different games and
Yep.
chucked them all together and made something that actually is quite good.
It's
Like,
okay, but I really did not like the tacking the Numenera pools in.
I
I
found I found it a bit jarring because I've played several tri-stat systems where that's like, instead of the 5 qualities, you've got 3 stats. So having mind, body, and soul, you do a mind roll, or a body roll, or a soul roll. Um, rather than having points for it. So I just found it jarring from having played other games that use those specific stats as stats rather than as pool of points.
Yeah.
I guess I would have that issue with Numenera as well. So
It works really well in Numenera though, because like I said, it's the only thing you're doing is using those pools. I mean, they're everything. Like they're how you funnel your ability. It's basically resource management. It's how you
yeah,
funnel your abilities, it's hit points, it's like it's all sorts of things. So it just basically becomes a resource management game. This, what it's done is take what is a fairly grounded, um, it's a fairly grounded game where like it feels like they tried really hard not to overpower things. And then they added in this whole extra step that is like, okay, this is how you get a whole ton of hit points, but you also can use your hit points to re-roll whenever you fail.
yeah.
So here are some very good chances you're going to fail, so that you have to actually plan and use common sense and be careful. But then we're just going to let you have a whole bunch of redos. Um,
But I think that's possibly where the narrative aspect comes in. Is that if you really want to do something and you want the story to go that way, you've got points. Use them.
well, but then have less points and don't like why. I do not understand why the pool system.
I don't understand why bother splitting it.
Yeah, that's what
That's
I'm saying.
yeah. Just like have a single pool and
And have it be smaller. Like don't don't let them
yeah.
re-roll like everything.
But that's down to how you run games though. That's making things more deadly, for example.
Well, but that's what I'm saying is that
If
like
you've got a smaller pool. But
everything up
if you're story gaming, then you maybe don't want it so deadly,
but
and that'll be a personal preference.
everything up until that step makes it look like it is supposed to be an old school type game.
Yeah,
Everything up until that step makes it look like it's supposed to be a high chance for, death and dismemberment. And then you hit that step and suddenly it's like, nope, just kidding.
I've realised we're not actually on the mind, body, soul page, so let's see if I can
Um
find it.
it well, I don't I mean, I don't know that we need to look at every single page that we're talking about, but I think they get it.
Yeah,
But I like if they had just I like the game anyway. I would like it better if they just cut that whole step in the character generation. Um, I
so
noticed we skipped.
something I didn't particularly like as well was with biodiversity. You got suggestions in there for if you're playing like a non-human race in a fantasy setting, for example, like you're playing an orc, you would have some extra expertise or something. But then playing as a human, you're not getting any bonus, so no one would play as a human.
Um, yeah, I was I didn't dislike the biodiversity. I was confused by it because I thought the whole point in having weird was that that's where that would come in. Because it specifies that weird is for magic and mutations and like other stuff. So this felt to me like doubling up a bit. Because again, if you're already doing weird and you're already getting interesting stuff from weird, that
I,
seems to cover both.
yeah, I think that's possibly just a poor choice of wording in the weird section. I've read weird to mean you've got like special psychic cybernetics, or you've got
It also says
wizard powers or
mutation.
something, rather than your
It also says magic
r-
and mutations.
Yeah, and they give you something special that other people of your species don't have. So you're not a tiefling, you're a tiefling wizard, for example.
Mm. You had to pick that example, huh?
Yeah.
So the bear is here in the comments. Quick comment, slight disconnect. Um, mind, body, spirit isn't hit points. Might be an issue with my text, but there are no hit points in this game.
Okay, so what do you lose if somebody attacks you and hits?
I was gonna say, suddenly I'm like, wait, can I not die? Well, that might be why there are no bonuses to attacks because because it doesn't matter if you get hit or not. Um, I don't know. It feels to me like too. How do I say this? I guess it goes back to what you were saying. Like, why would anyone just play a person if you've got the
Yeah.
weird and you've got the biodiversity?
Okay, we've got a rules clarification.
Trauma equals damage. 2 instances of trauma, you go down. If you're dying, you slowly bleed out body. I mean, that still sounds like body is hit points then.
But you are down and your body reduces while you're down, so it's more death count than hit points. Okay, so
So there's
I
no
would say if
bonuses to attack or evade
I
because so if combat is already deadly, why would there not be bonuses to evade? I mean, I understand in that case not having bonuses to attack, but
yeah, I would suggest perhaps giving martial classes a bonus to evade. Sorry, martial professions. I should use the right terminology because there's currently no benefit to taking a martial profession over another profession. If all your skills are in fighting, then you get no benefits for fighting. Why would you have all your skills in fighting?
why would you have any? Yeah, why would you have any skills in fighting if you don't
Yeah,
get?
give them evade, then they're at least less likely to die in a fight, and then they're more useful in a fight.
Yeah, Hamster says so. If I bonk the goat's ankles twice, I win. Right, but what we're trying to say, Paw, is that there's no point in being a fighter ever. You have
Yeah,
taken
there is.
you have taken away any reason for anyone to ever want a combat profession.
Yeah, and if you give the combat professions evade rather than a bonus to their attack, then they become more useful in combat because they're more capable of evading and not dying in combat without becoming more deadly.
Yeah.
And
Anyway, I
that would
don't.
solve that problem. But that's
I'm fine with rules clarification, but I kind of don't want. I mean, we might as well have just asked him on to the
yeah,
panel
no,
instead of doing a review if we're just going to talk at him the whole time. So,
yeah, sorry.
um,
I'm just kind of clarifying exactly what I mean by
yeah,
my
yep,
suggestion. If I was to run it, I would house rule that. To be honest, like I very rarely run a game rules as written. Um, so I would suggest if you don't like anything in this set of rules, house rule it. Same as with any game, and there's enough in this that I do like that I would run it, and I would just house rule the things I don't.
yeah, yep. I mean, that was kind of how I felt about the pools. So, and Paul, I was
Yeah,
not suggesting you should shut up. I'm just saying that he and I should be better about not.
yeah. So even with that
Otherwise,
rules
this review is going to
clarification,
take forever
though,
because we're just going to keep having conversations with the chat.
even with that rules clarification, if I were running this as a narrative game, I would house rule it so that those points, the mind, body, and soul points, are your hit points. because then you're less likely to die and the story can continue.
Mm.
But I'd give other things more hit points in a way to balance that. And that would potentially be a house rule that I'd use there because, like, I've been running a game since 2020 and I don't particularly want my players to die now. So let's say I switch to this system. I probably don't want it so that they get hit twice, they die when they've been going for this long.
See, Simon is a much, much nicer GM than I am.
Oh, I don't, no, don't get me wrong. Like, I'll kill him if it comes to it, but
Oh, I
I
don't
don't
kill
want, I
anyone,
don't
but
want
I'm
them
not
to
going to
get
stop them
hit
from
by a
killing
giant
themselves.
rat or something and die when they're like this far into the campaign. They should be getting hit by a dragon and dying.
Yeah, I suppose it's true. Hamsta asked if knocking me on the ankles twice would mean that he won, and I guess we never really did clarify that.
Yeah, knocking you on the ankles twice, rules as written, would incapacitate you and you'd start bleeding out. And if I stabbed you in the ankles in real life twice, then you would start bleeding out. So,
In the ankles,
I,
no. I mean, if you hamstrung me, maybe, but not in the ankles.
oh, you got an artery there.
You'd cut my Achilles tendon. I wouldn't be going anywhere, but it wouldn't kill
Yeah,
me.
you wouldn't go anywhere, and eventually you'd bleed out because you can't stop the bleeding by going anywhere. Um, it's not something we're going to try. Hopefully,
I I had a teacher once who was like, he's like, yeah, your Achilles tendon is a real weak point. That's why it makes Greek mythology because your Achilles tendon is one of those things that's responsible for a ton, but you can like actually tear it just by doing something like this. And he like bent over to tear to touch his toes, and he tore his Achilles tendon.
oh my god.
Hamster says most of my enemies have larger hitboxes than me.
Can we get another link in the chat to the Kickstarter again?
There just was one
Has that?
like
Okay.
2 minutes
Yeah.
ago.
So I honestly, I do think like if you've got the $25 to get the PDF of this, it is worth having. Uh,
Um, I
there
do
was
have to
also
say,
in the character creation bit, there was something that I liked. Let me switch cameras again briefly. Going right back up near the beginning, but
Paul, since you're here, we did have a question. So, you talk in the book about thanking the playtesters, but the Kickstarter, Simon says, has a thing about it still needing playtesting. Is that further playtesting, or was that written before? Was one written before the other? Provided we haven't chased him off.
well, my understanding of it is that you've there's there's been some playtesting, and then it goes out to all the backers who get to playtest it further, and then there'll be a final issue in November, I think it was, on the Kickstarter. So
Hmm.
they'll get an early copy, like the copy we've got, basically.
I always get really grumpy about RPGs being put out like AAA video games. Here, we're going to put this out unfinished to people who've already paid for it, and then you can tell us what's wrong with it and we'll fix it.
Yeah, and I don't think there's that much wrong with it, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't be unhappy with it if I bought this and this was the completed version. But yeah, the thing I was saying I liked anyway is in the character creation. It's like all these things that you should consider when you're making your character. If you're actually like
Yes,
role playing
I
your
had a note on this
character,
too. Yes.
and when I say role playing, I don't mean I am an elf and I go in the dungeon and I kill things.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, I
actually
totally agree.
all this stuff. This is a really good couple of pages, literally like 2 pages, for how to make a character that is interesting and that you'll be able to play.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
they've put it into 2 pages. That's great. That's really concise, and people should if you get this, which I think you should, use this for other systems as well.
The personality thing I thought was really good. I have way too many players that their personality is just kind of, the same blank slate every time. Um, and their idea of combat is I shoot them in the face every single time, no matter what happens to be going on.
Yeah, that's the murder hobo.
No, he's not a murder. The person I'm thinking of is not a murder hobo, but when combat actually happens, his role playing capability just kind of ceases to exist, and like the entire combat just becomes I shoot him in the face. He's actually a pretty good role player, except in combat. So,
Does he enjoy combat?
I don't know. I think I don't know. I do like the set of fashion trend too. That's very different in a way that doesn't feel tacked on like some games do. Some games will like throw things in just for the sake of being different. This actually is like a makes sense being different.
Yeah. There is one thing actually that I disagree with, and this is collaborate with the group.
I had mixed feelings about that.
I
Um,
I quite like parties that are together when they really shouldn't be, through whatever means they've ended up in a party, and then there's some dynamic you can work with as a result of it.
yeah, I mean, I always have people figure out what they want to. Well, I shouldn't say always. There are games where I'm like, you'd be better off if you had this combination. If I'm doing play tests for companies, I will get them to figure out what they want to do so that we cover as many, um, like, I don't know, classes or whatever character types as possible. Um, but if we're just playing, like if I'm starting a campaign, I have people play whatever they want to play. And I mean, I've ended up with things like there was a group where 3/4 of the party were like clerics, amusingly. Um, and it just became kind of okay, you're a group of clerics that are on your way from point A to point B. I plan the adventure around what they want to play. I don't tend to do it the other way around.
You plan?
I mean, I'm using the term loosely.
Yeah.
I come up with a vague world of what we're going to be doing or where I'm going to start them based on what it is they want to play for characters, not here's the world I'm going to run. Now you figure out how you're going to fit in it. I find it interesting. There are so many games out there where people are like, either the game revolves around the characters or the characters. How does it go? Either the world revolves around the characters or the world moves independently for the characters. Whereas my thought tends to be the game revolves around the characters, but the world moves independently.
I do have
So,
an idea. Since we've got Northern Poor Productions in the chat, I'm gonna give you like make a note of the timestamp on this video right now.
okay.
I'm gonna give you a nice little soundbite so that you can clip it, and then you can link this video, and we can have some nice cross promotion going. Because
So
I
suppose
like this game.
this was supposed to be a review, not a.
Well, it is a review, and it is completely unbiased. But actually, if I'm gonna say nice things about it, it would be good to not have random page in the background. So I've stuck the title page on it. Um, so yeah, this game is a very good, slightly crunchy D6 based dice pool system, and I read the whole book in an hour. It's nice and easy to read, and honestly, I will be running this game. Okay, so you can clip that bit and you can post that somewhere and link back to this video, and then people can get the full review where we'll complain about a bunch of things, but actually overall it is a good game. So
Yeah, so interestingly, the thing I have the most issue with in this entire book has absolutely nothing to do with the system. The little story things in between the sections are awful. I do not like them. Uh, the rest of the manuscript is so clean, and all of the stories are so badly edited. I was like, I don't understand how this happened. Um,
Yeah, for anyone watching that's come here from elsewhere, possibly from the little cross promotion thing we did, Goat is an editor, like a
well,
professional editor.
Goat is
So
also
um,
somewhat compulsively anal.
yeah, so that sort of thing is going to grate on Goat. But also, if your Kickstarter does really well, there's somebody you can pay who will do a really good job editing it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Um,
It's
but I do think if you're releasing a book, it is worth paying a professional editor to at least proofread things. I did spot some spelling mistakes, and I don't generally go looking for spelling mistakes unless I'm trying to.
so
You don't catch these things yourself when you write something. You need a third party to look at it, and they will see it.
Here's the funny thing though. I did not realize this. I swear this is not because Par is in the chat. This is not because he wrote the game. I did not realize until after I had made my notes. I had a note that said the third story out of the first four is by far the best and the cleanest, and it turns out that it's the one that Pa wrote, which I did not realize until after the fact. um, the first one has tense changes all over the place, sentence fragments all over the place, um, and too much spelling. Comma usage is bad. The second one has like these flowery bits of language that don't actually make much sense. It sounds like someone wrote it with a thesaurus in hand. Um, the third one, actually, my major issue with the third one is that it's right smack dab in the middle of the character creation, and I don't understand why.
We've had a comment from Seek Styles saying, I suppose that's what the pre-release is for too. But it shouldn't be. You shouldn't be getting people correcting your spelling and grammar when you send out the proof copies.
Well,
By that
especially since
point,
they've already
you should
paid
have
for
that
them.
fixed.
This is why I have real issues with so video game companies used to pay people fairly good money to play their games and find bugs in them and see if they can break them.
Oh yeah, I used to do it.
And nowadays they just release copies, people pay for them, they complain about the bugs, and then they fix the bugs later. What that's allowed them to do is just cut an entire chunk of their organization budget, like their production budget, um, while still getting people to pay more money for the right to do that job for them. And I notice more and more that that seems to be happening in role playing.
Well, what you're doing
Here,
here is selling that as a thing for people to do if they want to be a good capitalist.
what?
Well, if you can get people to do it for you for free,
No, that's not being a good
then why
capitalist.
wouldn't you?
That is not being a good capitalist. It's being a good predatory capitalist. It is not being a good capitalist.
Yeah, well,
Being a good capitalist is
my view on
turning
it is
out a
you're going
good
to get
product.
people get a copy of it and they'll complain about the spelling and punctuation, and you can avoid that by paying an editor like a couple of £100. And I know that's like a big chunk of money, but when you're releasing a book, that's one of the things that you should be paying for. You pay for art, you pay for layout, and you pay for a proofreader.
Well, it's not even I mean, proper editing should be, well, you can pay for a proofreader. Proofreaders will just go over spelling and commas and things like that. A
Yeah.
proper editor, one of the reasons it's really hard to find an editor for role playing games is that a proper editor also should be able to say, this rule on page 6 conflicts with this rule on page 98. You might
Yeah.
want to change that. Um,
And that's something that's going to get brought up in reviews, because I'm going to point out that there's rules that don't make sense in this, or a rule that doesn't make sense in this. And you don't want things like that coming out in reviews. You want them picked up by an editor before it comes out in a review.
and there's
So,
your transition to whatever the rule is.
yeah. So you've got opposed roles, and do you know what? I'm gonna. Did I send you the page number that this was an issue on? I can't remember.
Let me look back in our messages and I will find out. I think I remember you mentioning that there was something on page 65, but I think that was a typo, not a.
That was just a typo.
I don't think you.
I don't think I did. Okay, so
Yeah, I don't think
anyway,
you did.
under opposed roles somewhere in here, probably in the DM section if I remember rightly. It suggests that instead of using an opposed role, so I suppose I should preface that you have like normal roles and opposed roles. If you're doing something that isn't against another person, it's just a normal role. The opposed roles are for when you're doing something that impacts another person. In the
Oh, this
DM
is the math
section,
conversation.
sorry?
This was the math conversation, how I remember.
Yeah. So in the DM section, it suggests that to speed things up, rather than using an opposed roll, you could half the relevant stat and make that the target. That is not mathematically a good idea. That makes it much harder for somebody to achieve their goal than to just do the opposed roll. I'm not going to go into all of the maths of it, but basically, if you just half that number, like unless it was 4, 5, or 6 on a d6 as a success, you can't just half that number and get the same odds. And it's a 5 or 6 that's the odds of a success. So yeah, you would never want to use that optional rule unless you want to make things harder for your players. Now, as Goat was saying, an editor would have picked up on things like that, and because of the lack of editing, that you end up with things like that coming out in reviews, which the book's not out yet, so potentially that could be something that's fixed if somebody wants to actually do the maths properly and work it out. By the time it goes to print, that could be fixed, but this review will already be out.
Yeah. Simon and I frequently feel bad about the fact that we're like, honestly, we do like this game. Just because there's all this stuff that's wrong with it doesn't mean we don't like the idea. It's just that it's got issues.
Yeah, so Northern Pole Productions said it's mathematically sound. It doesn't give you the same odds. It gives you, even then, it would give you similar odds. It wouldn't be the same odds. So
I
it's not a quick fix necessarily.
I have to trust Simon on this one. I am math. I am in your inept thing. I am mathematically inept. I have programs that when I am going through people's rules, I have to like run things through the programs because I myself cannot cannot do this stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually mathematically sound because opposed rolls is exceed while target is meet or beat. So if you have 4 dice and you roll 2 successes, your opponent would need 3. However, if you use half dice pool as a threshold of 2, then the player only needs to roll 2, making it actually easier.
Okay, yes, but you're going to have a difficulty curve with these things, which is going to vary depending on what their score is, what your score is, what they may roll, because each roll you've got a 1/3 chance of a success. It's not quite as straightforward.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out on some of the percentages with like um, successes at the beginning of the book. Hang on a second, let me find my notes here.
I'm going to find the page with
The
there is
actual.
a page that has all the odds of different things, which is great.
Well, but I was trying. They seemed again mathematically inept, which is why I didn't bring it up. But some of them, the odds seemed odd.
So example.
Uh,
This is where an index would be useful. I know
See, I
it's in the
told you.
appendices.
Index.
Yeah, I know it's in the appendices, but I can't remember where.
Oh, different page than I was thinking of then. I didn't remember that there was one in the appendices.
Oh, your hyperlinks on the appendices link back to the first page as well. But I assume that's to be fixed in the release version. This is a
The
pre-release.
appendices.
I'll just scroll to it. Don't click on any of the appendices links on the contents page because they don't work.
Oh, really? I kind of checked the first ones. I didn't check the.
I think there's a placeholder page,
Oh,
and if you click after that, then it might break it. I'm not entirely sure, but this will be an issue with specifically this document, so don't factor that into the review.
what's really fascinating is not only does it go back to the title page, it changes. So like I have to, my eyesight's terrible, and I have to keep the book blown up to read it. If I click on it, not only does it go back to the title, it un unblows up
Okay, I
my
couldn't see
puppy.
it in the appendices. Maybe it's in the DM section.
The one I was referencing was page 16 or 17 on the PDF.
17. Oh, that was just the basic difficulty levels. You trained expert, masterful,
I know,
etc.
but where it says there's approximately 50% chance to roll at least one success on that. Oh, I just realized this was justified. Ooh, no wonder what made my eyes do funny things. Um, I so first of all, if you can't start with anything that's above a 5, that means you can end up with one skill, maybe two that's trained. And the expert and masterful, I wasn't quite sure why that was in the character creation.
I would
Um,
need to actually have the matrix of possible dice rolls in front of me to verify this.
well, that's what I was saying is that like some of them seemed, and again, my math's terrible. Um, but instinctively I was like, that doesn't seem right. But this is why I have an inept role in in math.
Oh, page 97. Thank you for that. I will bring that up. Hopefully, if my computer doesn't crash.
Oh, that would be problematic.
Oh, I don't think. No, I don't think that was the one. Oh no, there it is. Yeah. So page 98. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So you've got the success probabilities with no bonuses or penalties.
Oh, did you find what you're looking for?
Yes.
Oh, paw,
The
paw.
creator kindly told me what page
Yes.
it was on. So what would be useful here is also having success probabilities on opposed rolls. So you'd have your number of dice down one side and the other person's number of dice down the other side, and then having the success probabilities there.
I'm gonna have
And
to flip it on my copy because I
ineptitude
can't read yours.
really screws your ability to have successes, which I like, but I think you didn't. Was that right, Coat? Like, I really like the idea of something that you're just so crap at that you're basically never going to be able to do it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, once again, math.
yeah,
Um,
like if you've got something where you have to be trained to do it, and you're just so inept at it that you've got a 3% chance of being able to do it. Or like even going up to 6 dice, you're still only on a 26% chance to succeed, which is
yeah, I think so. We haven't talked about expertise in inept yet, right?
I'm sorry,
I
I
mean,
missed what you said there because my dog just decided to come in the bedroom.
um, we talked about professions, but we kind of jumped over the expert and inept, right?
Ah, yeah, so we've got. Right, so brief overview of how the system works. You've got your 5 or possibly 6 core stats, depending if you're a wizard or biomechanic man or whatever
Or a
that gives you
mutant.
the weird. Yeah, or a mutant, or it's setting agnostic, so whatever gives you your weird superpowers, basically, gives you potentially an extra stat for that weird superpower. So you'll roll a number of d6 equal to that stat, but then you've got your profession, which would potentially add more d6 on top of it, and then you can be an expert in something on top of that, which isn't necessarily related to your profession.
Yeah, which I thought was really weird because, like I said, you are kind of an outlier. Most people
Yeah, but then I pointed out that
tend,
you're an expert in role playing games, but you don't work as a role playing game designer. You work in goats.
except
You can have
I wouldn't
expertise
say I am
in.
an expert. I would not say I am an expert. I would say that I,
You know more than the average person about role playing games.
yeah, that doesn't make me an expert though. I mean, Grim probably has me beat by a long shot. Um,
That will be extra levels of expertise.
I mean, if you look at so when I'm not editing, I'm writing magazine articles about livestock care. My profession would be that I'm a writer. My expertise would be livestock. It's a subset of the writing profession.
And that's one way you could do it, but it's not necessarily
Except I think
what
that that
your
is
expertise is.
most people tend to work in the
But
field
that's
that they're good
min
at.
maxing, and like,
If for no other reason than they do the job for 20 years so they get to be an expert at it.
yeah, but like I'm an expert at the things that I do for work, but then I'm also an expert at other things that I don't do for work because I do them for a hobby and I do them so much that I'm an expert in them.
Okay, I would buy that, but I'm saying that you can have expertises that are outside your profession. I'm just saying I don't think it's unreasonable to think that you wouldn't have an expertise that was part of your profession. So like the rule is you have to take one
Oh,
expertise and you can take up to 4.
yeah, so
I
you
would
you don't
I I
you
would
don't have
house
to
rule it.
take a.
I would house rule it that the one has to be related to your profession, but the other optional ones do not.
Yeah, that would make sense. But then I would run it as well. Your profession gives you bonuses to anything related to your profession, so you don't need that expertise level on top of it.
Well, but see, I think
But
so.
the way that you're doing it would give them 2 bonus dice, and the way I'm doing it would give them 1 bonus dice. But then they would get a bonus dice in some other
Yeah, but
unrelated thing.
when you look at how many disadvantages taking an ineptitude gives you, I think they probably need those 2 dice. because the disadvantages from taking an ineptitude, which is required, is far
But
higher than the bonus that you get from taking an expertise.
the ineptitude would only take effect when you're rolling for something related to that ineptitude. So you using the
And the expertise
example
only
that
takes place
um,
the expertise only takes place when you're rolling for that. What's your point?
well, the point is that it's not that big a disadvantage. Like I've used the example when chatting to you that I'm crap at riding horses. Like I've had loads of horse riding lessons. I suck at it. I'm never going to be good at riding horses, no matter how many lessons I have. So that would be my ineptitude. But then, like, I don't live in a fantasy setting, so it's very rarely going to come up if we were using my real life as an example of my character. But I do have that ineptitude, and then my expertise in computers is actually comes up quite a lot. So
Well, but the rules specify that you have to take an ineptitude that applies to the setting.
yeah, and
So you couldn't take an ineptitude in computers if you were in a fantasy setting.
you couldn't. But horse
And
riding does still exist in a modern setting.
it is not likely to have an effect on the game, though. I mean, needlepoint still exists in a modern day setting. I'm pretty sure you couldn't take an ineptitude in that and have it be reasonable in the game.
No, because I'm an expert in it as a result of my profession. um, no, I get your point though. I sew things for a living.
I mean, you do everything odd jobby and all over the place. So
Yeah, I made a violin the other day. Did you see that?
I did not.
Oh, check my face.
You just there needs to be a if you were like trying to build a character, you would need like a jack of all trades profession.
I'm an artisan. I make things. It's
Well,
really difficult filling in online forms, by the way, because like when it says what do you do for a living, like my profession doesn't exist.
well, neither of mine ever have,
Yeah. But anyway,
but
back to the review. um,
yeah, but I think it makes a lot more sense to say that the first expertise needs to be related to your profession because again, an especially so let's take fantasy um as an example. And because I was using it earlier, I'm just going to use gladiator. So your profession is a gladiator. Um, I will answer that question in just a second. So your profession is gladiator. You become an expert at being a gladiator, or you die. Like there are no bad gladiators. So your initial expertise, your profession is gladiator. Your initial expertise is whatever style of gladiator fighting you do. Um, I'm trying to remember what the so like the Murmillo. Okay, you fight with a sword and a shield. That's your expertise. Your profession is gladiator. Um, you have that expertise because you have to have that expertise in order to make a living. You then have a
yeah,
hobby. You then have a hobby of raising pigeons, but that's an optional expertise because it's an optional hobby.
yeah. I suppose as a gladiator who's an expert in using a sword and shield, you might also be okay at using a trident.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
you get your gladiator bonus. Well, you wouldn't because you're not allowed to have a bonus for combat. But let's pretend that you can. You'd get your gladiator bonus for the combat with a trident, and then you'd get your gladiator and your expert bonus for combat with a sword and shield.
um, I can't remember the style. The style with two swords. If people have not watched this, you should. Random Film Talk did this incredible breakdown of like the entire Spartacus series. Um, And he talks a lot about the fighting styles, and he talks about the fact that the two-sword fighting style was picked up later by gladiators who were especially good at it, because if you were even an average gladiator, not being able to protect yourself meant you were going to die. Only the greatest gladiators picked that up as an expertise. So you still know how to use the sword and shield because that's what you start with. And then as you become great and the crowd's like, you become a crowd favorite, you want to stand out, you take a different style and that becomes your thing. Um, yeah, so profession means that sixes count as two successes instead of one, and expertise gives you an automatic success. Uh, Being inept at something means only sixes count as successes. So the ineptitude has significantly more impact than the expertise does, which is why I think stacking them should be fine. Is that a better explanation?
Yeah, no, I agree that you should be able to stack them. I just don't think that you should have to. That was my point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, like, if you're taking 4 expertise, I don't think they all need to be part of your profession.
Yeah.
I just think that if you have a
I, would-
profession,
I also have known
if
a
you're an
lot of people who
adventurer,
aren't very good at their jobs.
but again, if you're an adventurer and you're not very good at your job, you're a dead adventurer. You like didn't even make it into the game.
Yeah.
Stories are not told about the average people. Stories are told about the people who are experts.
I'm just going to check our chat to see if there are any other points that I
Questions?
mentioned that we haven't covered.
Yeah, I gotta go back. We kind of skipped around, and so my notes are no longer terribly good. Um,
We had a big conversation about being inept and expertise and professions, and then we've just done it again here. Um,
well, I asked if we had talked about
this,
inept and
this
expertise,
is
and they got
this is relevant though because we've both read the same rules document and we've interpreted it different ways.
um.
So yeah, there was
Man,
the
I have a lot of
fighter
notes. I have a lot of
issue.
notes about those little in between stories.
Yeah, the fact that it's being sold as a narrative game, but it's a somewhat crunchy D6 dice pool system, and it could sell itself on the basis of that. Martial professions.
Oh, I had written down that on page 15 it says the summary about character creation is on page 35, which I thought was interesting because the summary is usually first, so you can kind of get a rundown and then you start getting into the in-depth stuff. And then I realized that page 35 is actually step 8 where you're going back over to make sure you did everything. Um, which I don't think I have ever done.
I actually like having all of the rules for character creation, just one thing after another, not like a summary and then you have to skip to another bit and then skip to another bit. So I quite liked the character creation section.
Wait, say that again?
Um,
You skipped to another.
so in a lot of role playing game books, you'll have to skip between different sections for character creation, and it's a pain in the ass.
Really? I'm so glad
Yeah,
I'm so glad I have never played those games. I have seen games where there's like here's the summary of everything you're going to do, and then you go section by section and cover that.
oh,
And I sort of
it's things largely that are based off of the 3.5 system reference document. So the majority of
well, that would
OSR
explain
games,
it.
which is what I tend to play. Um, yeah, you'll have to skip between sections because you've got like the section for race, and then you've got the section for classes, and then when you want to get equipment, that's actually in the another section entirely, and just give people what they need in order of what they need it. Like, and I
It
feel like this one did a fairly good job on that.
did, let's see, combat. Combat is really long for if you get hit twice, you die. Character advancement. Did we discuss character advancement?
We didn't. I didn't really focus on character advancement that much when I was reading it. I kind of skimmed through it, so I'm going to be
This
completely honest there.
this also looks very much like Numenera. This advancement style. The improvement points. Okay. This is not about the game. It is not all that important, but I share Grimm's pet peeve about changing common terms just so that they aren't the common term.
Yes.
The likelihood of someone who's never played a role-playing game playing this game is fairly low, unfortunately. Just use the terms people are used to. Reward one improvement point at the end of every game session where they've made reasonable and meaningful progress towards a goal. So dithering gets you no points. The removing an ineptitude I thought was interesting. So your cost and improvement points is 60 divided by the current number of ineptitudes. Does that not seem to mean that it is harder to get rid of the first one than get rid of the others? Math, again. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Okay, removing an ineptitude is one of the things that you can do with your points, with your
Yeah.
improvement points, experience points, whatever you want to call them. One would assume that in order to keep the game balanced, let's say you have 4 ineptitudes, it seems like it should be harder to get rid of each one. Instead, it seems to be easier to get rid of each one.
Well, it's easier to get rid of the first one, and it's slightly more difficult to get rid of the second one, and it's slightly more difficult to get rid of the third one.
Okay, so my math is just crap then.
Yes.
Told you, inept in math. Wasn't not joking. It seems like it is incredibly difficult, period, to do
Yeah, having no
most.
ineptitudes at all is
No, no,
highly
no. I'm
unlikely.
talking about increasing any of these.
Oh,
Seems
right.
like a lot. You know, if you happen to have a bad game session, you could play for 5 hours and get absolutely nothing out of it. And I don't mean like people were dithering around bad. I mean like everyone just got really unlucky.
Yeah, but conversely, you have other games where you just zoom through the character progression, and then it
Oh yeah, I don't like that either.
gets stupid quickly. So
Yep.
yeah, I don't think that's an issue, to be honest. I think slow progression is a feature, not a bug.
I would definitely say I'd rather have it this way than that way.
But yeah, that's again something that you can house rule if you want to progress players through faster, I guess. But that's the case with any game, though. Is how quickly do you award XP, and it's down to the table, really.
Yeah. I think it's because this looks so much like Numenera. It's sort of it's a lot like Numenera in this, but it's not quite. It's sort of like if someone serves me a bison burger, even though I know it's not a hamburger, my brain goes, "This should taste like a hamburger," until I take a bite in it, and then my brain goes, "What the fuck was that?"
I
I
wonder
know this.
actually if
I know. I know this isn't Numenera, but it looks so much like Numenera that my brain keeps wants it to work like Numenera.
Northern Paw Productions, since they are in the chat, could confirm or deny whether they've taken parts of games that they like and mashed them together into something that, depending on your opinion, in mine
I mean,
is
that makes it sound that makes it sound awful, but
But okay,
they are
that's not the best way to
were
put
they
it. But they've
inspired.
taken inspiration from Numenera,
There you go.
clearly.
Were they inspired by other games? And I mean, who of us
That
isn't?
D6 dice pool system, I have 100% played a game that has that exact mechanic with a D6 dice pool with 5 or 6 being your success and an automatic success if your profession is relevant. And I can't for the life of me remember what it's called because I played it on Grim streams where Grim was just running through everything on his bookshelf, so I played it once in amongst a whole bunch of other games.
You could just ask him.
There is definitely a game out there that uses that mechanic, and it works and it's good, and I enjoyed it. So
Yeah, I mean, just
I
because
can
it's
say
good
with
doesn't mean people
confidence
shouldn't
that
reuse it.
this game is going to be fun to play because I've played something similar to it. But
Legata says, can we have an example of common terms and replacement terms? So in this case, instead of using experience points, they've used improvement points. Instead of using attributes, they've used quality. I see my brain automatically just wants to revert back.
yeah, I wonder if
Um,
somebody could post a link to Numenera because they said they're going to Google it, but they've spelled it wrong. And I can't type in the chat because I'm not on YouTube at the moment.
sorry, what were you?
Um, if
You've never heard of Numenera because several of your rules are so close to being Numenera. It's very hard to. Let me see.
and
It's
yeah,
a
tons of
Monty.
games use a D6
Oh, you know
dice
what?
pool system.
It's a
There
cipher
was one that
system game.
was so close to this that like it feels like it was inspired by that game, if that makes sense.
It's a cipher system game, so they might be familiar with one of the other cipher system games as opposed to Numenera. The cipher system came from Numenera, but most people think it's the other way around, and that's where I get. Um, I'm trying to find a character sheet because I have a character. Oh wait, I can't. Never mind. I can't. I can't just put the character sheet up. I could share the screen though, couldn't I?
Legatus has mentioned D6 is the most common dice, and yeah, it is, and that's one of the reasons I like D6 games because everyone's got D6. And if I can't find my dice bag, I can probably find a board game on the shelf that's got D6 in it. Um, it's it's a good dice to use.
Trying to. Here we go. Character sheet. Do 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 do. All right. So window, character sheet, share, blow up. Okay, here you go.
Right, I'm
So
not the
this
only thing on the screen now.
uh so this pool is what I was talking about specifically. This might speed intellect.
Yeah, it's a tri-stat system.
Um, and when you level up, you get a single point, except they are experience points. They go right here, and you have it. It's very similar in the sense that you earn experience points, and then you have a choice between you can increase your pool, you can increase your tier, you can increase your edge, you can buy new skills, you can. They don't call them inept in this; they call them inability, but you can remove an inability. Um, so you can see why I think it's very similar.
Did I say the tri-stat? I thought I said a tri-stat system.
You did say A.
Okay. Sorry, I just got witch cream.
Oh. Yeah, no, he did say a tri-set system.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they're both quite similar. Um, up to and including the fact that the layout of this page is similar to the one in Numenera. um, aspects. Then there's aspects represent distinctive traits characters gradually refine through experience and dedication, which again just feels like another layer of expertise. I know there's professions and then there's expertise and then there's aspects and then there's a lot of layers to this.
Yeah, it did feel a bit overcomplicated in that regard.
Yeah, having different aspects is one thing, but then it felt like there were just layers upon layers upon layers. And again, I tend to like things a little crunchy. I think it's that I didn't go into this expecting it to be crunchy because of the way it's described.
Yeah, if I was running it, I prefer more rules light stuff, so I would simplify that as a house rule.
Yeah, I
But
I I do like crunchy. I probably wouldn't simplify it, but I would probably reorganize it a little different. Um, but again, this is what you were talking about earlier. I like crunchy, so when I was surprised, I was pleasantly surprised. Whereas somebody who went into this thinking, "Oh, I want something that's really easy and light to get into," um, they might be disappointed.
yeah,
Uh, what is an aspect? Aspects represent distinctive traits that a character gradually refines during experience and dedication. Simon, can you pull this up? This is on page 82 of the PDF for people like me who are terrible about being read to.
page 82.
Each aspect reflects a particular area of focus in which the character has developed notable aptitude, granting them meaningful advantage in related situations. Characters unlock new aspects by releasing specific milestones in their total accumulated IP, reflecting their continued growth and specialization over time. The only thing I could think of to differentiate that from expertise is using my earlier example of, I'm a writer, but my expertise is writing about animal care. I assume aspect is like if I win an award for an article. I mean, it felt like it was supposed to be, though I don't know. And once you get into the examples, it seems like something entirely different.
So I'm gonna scroll through just a little bit because I assume it's right to scroll through a couple of pages on this, but got different tiers of aspects, so you can when you get at least 15 IP, you can get a tier 1. When you get at least 30 IP, you can get either a tier 1 or tier 2, because you're allowed to pick one from a lower tier. Again, at 45, tier 3 or below, and 60, tier 4 or below. So these are like something you get as a bonus for leveling up. And it has to come from, does it have to come from the list?
Yeah, I think I completely misunderstood what these were because I think my brain somehow separated the aspects from this whole list of aspects.
It's like a skill that you gain when you level up. So you would presumably pick something that is relevant to your character. So you wouldn't be a fighter who's suddenly also an ace pilot, even though he's never flown a plane.
Yeah. Well, it says focus in which the
Well,
character is
okay,
developed.
never driven a vehicle, never ridden a horse. He walks everywhere. You wouldn't give him that. But
Yeah.
rules as written, you could, and it would make no sense.
Well, it says in which they've developed a notable aptitude. So, I mean, depending on how you read that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, Paul, maybe you can answer this. I don't really understand why this is different or how this is different from expertise. Narratively, not mechanically. Narratively, how is it different from expertise? Since this
Yeah,
is a
because I
since
mean,
this is a
mechanically
narrative
a
game.
3d6 bonus rather than a extra thing, but a 3d6 bonus is quite significant, though.
Well, that's why I was saying, like, it's obvious how it's different mechanically, but if this is a narrative game, then how is it narratively different? I mean, mechanically, it just adds another layer to things, but I don't understand what it does to the story or why it makes sense to the story for it to be something different.
So I would read it as something like, I may be wrong here. I would read it as expertise in something you're already an expert in.
Well, that's why I was saying, I thought it was like, when I first read it, I thought it was like, okay, my expertise is writing about animals, so now I've won an award, so like I'm an expert about I'm an expert in my expertise. But then I started looking at the tiers, and that doesn't fit at all.
So let's say my job is I work for the NSA, and so that's my profession, is professional snoop or whatever, spy. And my expertise is in computers, and as I level up, I would then gain analyst, which would make me particularly good at being a NSA spy.
Right, but so let's just because we've been using it, let's go back to the gladiator thing. You're a gladiator, your expertise is sword and shield.
Which gives you no mechanical bonus.
Yeah, which doesn't give you any bonuses to start
So
with.
we'll pretend
But
that it
then,
does because we've house ruled it.
right. But then, so let's see, you couldn't use anything from tier 1. But I guess you could in
Yeah.
tier 2 say resolute, you push through fear or distraction when it matters most, keeping your focus.
So you could be a daredevil.
I'm just sticking with resolute because it's the one in front of me. Um, well, no, actually, you're right. Yeah, okay. So you have the two sword style, which basically runs entirely on being aggressive. So you have the daredevil tier 1 aspect. First of all, that seems more like a personality trait. Like you wouldn't be doing that style at all unless you were already a daredevil.
But
Um,
this is when you level up. So you're doing these things as a role play thing. Like I'm swinging from the chandelier to attack people or whatever. But then when you level up, you then get a 3d6 bonus when you're doing the stupid and foolhardy, sorry, daring and foolhardy physical stunts.
all right, so you've always fought stupidly and aggressively as a gladiator, but now you've got 2 swords and you've leveled up, so now you have a bonus.
Yeah, it's just to give you the ability to do more superhuman things, I guess. It's the difference between playing a level 1 character and playing a level 10 character in D&D.
No, no, I get that. But what I'm saying is as far as the story goes, you're still thinking mechanically. As far as the story goes, why would there be any difference to taking Daredevil as an aspect versus uh my expertise as a gladiator is that I'm known for being crazy in the ring. Or I fight with two swords, which is automatically a Daredevil thing in and of itself. Legata says you can drive a manual but not shift. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that's
like, and this is sort of like the what I was talking about in the first place, where I was like, I like the what are they called? I've forgotten again. Qualities. I like the qualities, but the definitions don't seem to line up with the examples. And I
yeah,
feel that way about aspects. Like I don't dislike the aspects and I don't dislike the description of aspects, but I don't feel like they line up.
yeah. No, I can agree with that. I don't find it as jarring as you do, but I do agree with it.
Well, you're not obsessively analytical in the same way that I am, so.
I'm also not remotely looking at this as a narrative game. It's a D6 dice pool game. Like,
Yeah, you're looking at it as it's written, I'm looking at it as it's advertised,
yeah,
which again is a clash between what it says in one area and what it does in another.
yeah, that's valid. I think there are consistency issues like that.
Um, and by the way, Grammarly would not have made that observation.
I feel like we are complaining about a lot of things, though. I think we should probably try and find some more
Well,
positive points
that
for it
that's what I
because,
was saying earlier. Is like I feel bad about like pointing out the things that are seem problematic because overall the only reason I'm being this picky is because I like the game and because I
yeah,
think the game could be really good. Otherwise, I'd just be like, yeah, everything about this game is awful. Like I
yeah.
used to
No,
tell people,
nobody just clip that everything about the game is awful. um,
no taking stuff out of context.
yeah,
Um, it's like I used to tell people, like when I was counseling, I'm always hardest on the people I think actually could do good things with their lives because the rest of them are just going to be in prison forever. So why take the time? Um,
I
and
think mechanically the game is sound though.
Yeah,
From my
yeah,
read through it,
absolutely.
all
I
of the
haven't,
different things interact with each other in a good way. Narratively, maybe not so great, but in the actual mechanics work from what I see in it.
I did not pull my hair out once, which is kind of amazing because, man, I feel like I've done that a lot on a lot of systems I've looked at lately.
I am not allowed to run this game because, uh, well, we agreed not to. So I'll have to pick up a copy of it at some point to run it. But I can only go from having read it as a result, and I feel like I should
Well,
probably
yeah, same.
mention that this is just from reading it and not from playing it.
I thought I had
Obviously.
mentioned that when I was talking about getting the copy for review, but maybe I didn't. I meant to. Oh, I did want to share this because for some reason it really, hang on a second. I can't. I'm having a sudden brain spaz. I cannot remember how to share. Um, I was talking earlier about how much I liked the work that the artist had done, and this one especially. I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like every time I look at this one, there's like new stuff that I like about it.
Yeah, the art's really good, and I really like the, like title page for a section, then a full page art, and then a page with text. I don't know about necessarily having the story on the next page, but having a page with text with the art as a sort of grayed out version in the background, just that
Yes, I
layout
meant to
choice
mention that
works
and I
really
forgot.
well,
Yeah.
and it lets them have fairly minimal amount of art, which is necessary when you're paying real artists. But it still breaks it up enough that it's not just pages of text.
The other thing, I'm gonna share this again because I think this is really important because I think a lot of gamers are getting older, and once again, I have horrific eyes. Um, this page here with the art in the background. So first of all, this art is so subtly done. It shows up far more on the screen than this actually does uh, on the book, at least for me. Um, it's very, very subtle when I'm actually reading it. But for me, with my terrible eyes, that very slight darkening of the page because of the art makes it so much easier to read this. Um, I have begun having really, this is one of the reasons I'm going back to all physical books. Reading electronically has really become difficult for me these days, unless you can have one of those ancient ink readers, which Amazon is doing away with. Having this slightly shaded background, it was like a sigh of relief while I was reading this. Um, so yeah, really excellent job in multiple ways. It makes it more interesting. It makes it like you were saying, like it's great for the artwork. And it is so 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 much easier on those of us with crappy eyes.
Yeah, and it's again the book is easy to read. It's not just visually. It's written in a nice, easy to understand, easy to digest way. Um, Whole book took me about an hour, and obviously that's going to vary depending on your own reading speed. But if I can get through an entire book in an hour, that's good for a rule book. There's been other books I've reviewed where I've spent about 3 hours reading it before I could even start writing about it because I had to get through other sections before I could say anything because things referenced other sections, and this was very much you read through it in the order that it's there and you'll understand it. Uh,
Paul, have you been here for the entire review? Like, did you catch the very beginning? I ask only because we talked about the fact that I, at least, and I think Simon agreed with me, really like this uh, coloring instead of, well, I mean, in this particular case, qualities is capitalized, but like not having every other word capitalized, which drives me absolutely nuts. Um, and I thought the blue was really nice, but it did look very much um, like a hyperlink. On the other hand, I've seen that done with red, and it just ends up glaring. So I'm not crazy about red either, but I don't know if there's a way to make that a different color so it doesn't look quite so much like a hyperlink.
yeah, the keywords in teal. I like the teal, but I think
I
this
like
is
the teal.
because
I just
we.
keep trying to click on it.
I think this is because of our age, though, because hyperlinks aren't that color anymore on most websites.
They're not?
No, people just bolt them or no one uses default color schemes anymore.
Now I have to go look.
I,
I mean,
I
there's only
wonder if
like,
we can pin one of the previous comments by Northern Paul Productions, well, where it says, "I'm an expert in my profession is," because that was something else that I really liked, is that you could write down your character as a few sentences.
That by the way is also a Numenera thing, which again is why I thought this was cipher system based, at least in part.
Yeah. So that
Because
you
the
don't.
cipher Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you don't necessarily need a full character sheet. You can just write down a few sentences, and that tells you everything that you need to know.
The basis for the cipher system is that instead of rolling stats, you come up with a sentence. I am a swift glaives are fighters, so it would be like I am a swift glaive who fights with two swords, or I am a sturdy glaive who fights in armor. And I'm coming up with the very simplistic ones, but it's basically I am an adjective noun who does verb. And that's the entire basis for the character.
Well, I
So
think one of Grimm's games uses something very similar as well.
yeah, I think he's talked a lot about the cipher
Neverwhere had
system stuff.
something that was very narrative focused like that.
Oh, interesting. Teal was chosen because of various factors, including color blindness. Interesting.
Well, that's something that in a review I feel that we should applaud them on, because
Yeah, very much.
people don't factor in stuff like that, and they should. And you have, so go you.
Yeah, I so when I first started playing Diablo, one of my chat, it turned out, was red-green colorblind, and of course Diablo is entirely done in red and green.
Oh
And
yeah,
so we,
that's going to be a
huh?
problem. That's going to be a problem.
So we had these conversations about color blindness, and I made a joke because I get made fun of all the time about my inability to differentiate blue and green, and I laughed and said, it's really too bad there isn't like a blue-green color blindness that I could blame this on. And immediately the entire chat was like, there is. And I was like, seriously? So I looked it up. I looked it up. Blue-green color blindness is a side effect of having glaucoma, which I have had since I was 20.
Oh,
So apparently I am in fact really blue-green colorblind. Which may be why I didn't know lynx had changed colors. I don't know. Because to me all the lynx still look blue. but
oh,
yeah, it's
another thing that we should probably talk about in a review, since the Kickstarter is still live, is the price.
yes, 11 days.
So
They have
how do you
made
feel about £25, which is I think probably about $35 ish for a PDF?
I gotta say, 135-page PDF seems high to me for a game that is relatively unknown. But I'm also a cheap bastard, so
And I completely disagree.
like I said,
Um,
I'm a cheap bastard.
yeah, I think that if you are right, so I'm going to preface this with I'm quite pro AI for a number of reasons. One being that you can replace work that you can't necessarily afford to get done. So if you're releasing a book for £5 for the digital edition, and it's full of AI stuff, I'd be fine with that. When you've got real artists that need paying, you need to be able to pay for them. And £25 for a digital edition is actually quite reasonable, given that you are paying other people to do things. And I think that should be the standard that we should be used to with things like that. People deserve to be paid for their work. We've got used to, like, Goodman Games at the moment has got a $5 for their rule books on drive-through. If anyone doesn't own them doesn't own Dungeon Crawl Classics and wants a copy, it's $5. We've got too used to stuff like that.
Well,
because like big companies or bigger companies can afford to do things like that. But if you're one guy writing a rules system with one person doing the art and one person doing the layout,
okay,
you all
this is
need to get
important.
paid for that.
This is important. Final version is about 200 pages, including a tutorial scenario. That is different. That's a lot more meat on the bones.
I don't
Um,
care if it's 130 pages or 200 pages, though. I think you need to pay the people that have worked on it, and £25 is sufficient to be able to do that. And it is a good system, and I paid £25 for this and received this product, I would be happy with it.
okay. I'm
Um,
not saying you can't
that,
be, but
that's my
35 bucks, 35 bucks for me for, uh, a book that I probably would use about 100 pages of.
okay. But if you compare it to, like, I keep making comparisons to D&D. Let's like look up how much is um, the
I
new
mean,
new player's
I
handbook, for example.
you have to understand I also don't buy Wizards of the Coast stuff for a similar reason.
Oh yeah, because you're cheap. But
Well, because I
2024
and because I
players
don't like them, but
2024 player's handbook. Bearing in mind, you also need the Dungeon Master's Guide and the Monster Manual if you're going to run D&D.
hmm
Like the player's handbook on its own is £30.90 on Amazon, which I know you don't use before you
is that the
can do that.
PDF or is that a hardcover though?
That is, I believe, the hardcover, but at the end of the day, your rules are rules.
No, it's not. There's a huge, and this is what I was going to say, is that to me, I will pay significantly more for a physical copy than I will pay for a PDF.
I don't think you can buy the 5th edition player's handbook as a PDF
You can buy it.
legally.
You can buy it on whatever their thing is.
Yeah, you can get it on D&D Beyond. Okay, I found D&D Beyond. So you have to use their particular thing. Actually, I think it's free on D&D Beyond because they want you to be a player.
So I'm going to look up Shadow the Demon Lord because I think Wizards of the Coast is a monster in and of itself, and I don't really think that using Wizards of the Coast applies to indie games as a comparison. Well, let me rephrase that. I would use this if I could get the stupid website, drive-through RPG website to work. Okay, apparently drive-through is not working on my computer today. That's lovely.
D&D Beyond, because I don't actually have a account with it, I can't see everything, so that's not a good one to be checking either.
So Shadow the Demon Lord is $50 for physical copy, which again does have everything you need to play the game, like this one does, which is why I think it makes a better comparison. Um,
Okay, it's £55 for a physical edition, which gives
you
you the.
you also get a copy of the PDF. Well, it's $50, so I don't know what that works out to in pounds. I know
£55, I think, is about $70 ish.
because this works out to almost $35 for me in PDF format. So for Shadow the Demon Lord, I'd pay an extra $15. I'd get the physical copy and I'd get the PDF. And the book is denser.
Shadow of the Demon Lord sells quite a lot more copies than this does.
Well, I mean, you were making comparisons with Wizards of the Coast, which sells millions. I just picked this one because it happened to be on the top of my head.
My point, though, is that Wizards of the Coast charges loads of money for things. But
Um, but what I'm trying to say is I would be far more likely to spend the £55 for the physical edition than I would be to spend £25 for the PDF.
yeah, and that's fine. That's personal preference. I would just buy the PDF because I'd just use the PDF.
Um,
I'd be happy with that.
I
It
once did.
caters to both of us, though. We've got both. You've got the option to buy the physical edition at £55, which, granted, is a little bit more than Shadow of the Demon Lord, but it is in that sort of price region.
Um, well, and again, that's why I was trying to use it as a comparison.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out how much the PDF of Shadow of the Demon Lord was, but I can't make the stupid page load. Um, I once did, because again, I'm an overly analytical psycho person. I once did a breakdown of the cost of other types of books, and the work that goes into them and the cost that goes into them, to try and figure out why the payment margins for role-playing games are so much thinner. And there was no reasonable answer.
Yeah, so my book that I um, sell through my website, which has nothing to do with RPGs, so I'm not going to link it or anything, but it doesn't have any pictures in, and the cover is AI generated just so it's got something on it. It's the text that's important, and I feel like that's the same with a rule book. I sell that for £50 for like hardcover book, or I believe it was 30 for the soft cover. I'm going from memory here. It's been a while since I've looked at my own prices, but £50 for a hardcover book. I think it's about 180 pages with no art. So, given the fact that this book has art, there are people to pay other than just the person that wrote it. Somebody did the layout that isn't the person that wrote it. I honestly think that it is reasonably priced at the price points that it's got,
I mean,
um, based on not RPG book prices, because I work in other fields.
uh, I suppose, but what we're actually talking about is RPGs. I mean, Shadow Dark gives their quick start away for free. So, and their quick start is basically a third of their entire book.
Sure, but that's a marketing choice.
It is a marketing choice. I'm just
And
saying that,
in terms of the price of the full product, I think that the RPG industry needs to shift towards actually paying people.
right, but
Personally,
what I'm saying is that if you go outside of the RPG industry, people are still getting paid. They're getting paid more money, and the books aren't costing anymore. So I still can't figure out
yeah,
why.
that's down to drive through RPG, honestly, because they take a big chunk of the money.
Well, and that may be why Arcane Library can get away with doing the stuff they do with Shadow Dark, because they sell, through their own.
Yeah, they're a publisher. Um,
They're doing their own thing.
yeah.
I'm curious. I was
Does
trying to see.
the Kickstarter say who's printing it?
Shadow Dark RPG PDF is $29. So I mean that's still a pretty hefty chunk. But the fact is that if I were looking at this and if I had not seen the game and I didn't know what I was getting into and I didn't know anything about the system, asking me to pay $35 for what I thought was 135 pages on an unknown, uh, as broke as I am these days, is a lot.
Yeah, I also think if you're buying it on the basis that it's a narrative system as well,
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is if I thought it was a narrative system, I probably wouldn't back it at all. But
yeah.
they're just, there are other things I would definitely look at first. On the other hand, having seen the system, knowing now that it's 200 pages instead, the one thing actually that will still probably stop me from backing this, other than the fact that I'm broke as hell, um, is that I'm guessing the shipping is going to suck for me. Not for you, it wouldn't for you, but it would for me. Um, I'm curious. Are
I
there?
can't see who is printing this on the Kickstarter, whether it's being printed by Drive-Thru or Lulu or Amazon or someone else.
I was just realized I was just curious about whether or not there were stretch goals because I haven't actually seen
Oh, I
any.
think there were, yeah,
I
stretch
see.
goals.
I see add-ons.
Yeah, it's 200% funded is achieved, so printer-friendly GM screen inserts.
Oh, here we go.
300% funded, there'll be additional artwork, which is reasonable, to be honest. Have more money to spend on artwork. Um, haven't listed what the 400 plus goals will be, I suspect, because they haven't got any idea what they'll be at this point. But having run a Kickstarter myself, I think, oh crap, I'm about to hit 300% funded. What am I going to give people at
Yeah.
400%? Like,
Sometimes if I'm on the fence, the stretch goals will make a difference. I gotta say that printing out some GM screen inserts would probably not do it for me.
yeah, I do like the additional artwork as a stretch goal though, because that's quite clear that you're making more money, so you're going to pay the artist a bit more to do some more art.
Yeah, I would back more for
That's
that than I would the.
that's definitely something that I can get behind.
How far are we away from the 300%? The this has just in the time
Oh,
we've been going over this, I think there has been a jump in how much money they've made. So,
well, I hope it's people that are watching this.
but again, math, so I don't know.
So currently we're on £2,515 of the £1,000 goal. So we're about just under £500 off of the next goal. We're halfway between two stretch goals.
That is that is so much different than what I what it looks like on my head just because of the math difference.
Yeah, we're halfway between the 200% funded and the 300% funded.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, if you're still with us this far through the stream and you've heard us banging on about this for this long, if you can afford it, I'd go and back it. Like, it's a good book. All in all, we've made a lot of complaints about it, but we've got an advanced copy, and a lot of the things that we're complaining about, things like the wording of something, for example, that's subject to change. And even with the things we're complaining about, if I had the money right now, I'd be backing it myself. I am likewise broke right now, but hopefully I'll have some sales through my shop in time to back this.
Which queen? I'm with you. Somebody asked how the artwork was looking. We've shown a couple of them earlier on. The artwork is pretty amazing. I
Yeah,
very
that
rarely
looks
am
pretty good.
swayed by artwork in any way, shape, or form. I really enjoy the artwork in this. Hamster says Dyscalcula, a vampire with an aversion to maths.
Yeah, this is definitely one that you want on your bookshelf though, or in your hard drive, because so we've made comparisons to some other games. There's things that are very similar to Numenera, but then it's also got things that aren't the same as Numenera. Or there's things that are the same as other D6 dice pool systems, but then there are things that aren't. And it's that combination of things, I think, that works quite well together mechanically.
Oh yeah, I mean, Numenera is one of my favorite systems to run. There are still a ton of stuff I house roll. So just because I say that there are things in this I would house rule doesn't mean I don't like it.
And there's not actually a huge amount in this that I would house rule. I think I've only mentioned a couple of things that I've said I would house rule it. And I hate using rules as written normally. So that's
I was sitting here trying to remember. I was like, is there anything that I run completely as written? I don't. So Knight, the game Knight, but even then I have house ruled some of the lore, but I don't think I've house ruled the system. But I've only run it once, so. But yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I don't. Even if the house ruling is just I took the first edition and the second edition and squished them together. But I do think that almost 2.5 hours for single game, I think we have probably
we've
made our
probably
point
complained about
as well as we're
everything.
going to be able to make.
Yeah, we've complained about everything that could be complained about with it, but overall, it is really good.
Well, like I said, I wouldn't be nitpicking if I didn't think it was worth nitpicking.
Yeah,
Um, I literally have taken paying clients stuff and handed it back to them and said, "Yeah, you need to go back over this again."
yeah.
I just be wasting your money and my time.
I wouldn't be nitpicking as much if it wasn't still in a state where it is subject to getting changes made to it. Because
Yeah.
without bringing up these issues, they ain't going to get changed.
Yep. It's worth it to be. It's worth being mentioned. But
Yeah. But overall, I mean, I'd be happy with it as it is if I bought it.
I mean,
You might
I,
not because you're a bit more nitpicky with like the wording and stuff like that. But
I mean, if I took an X-Acto knife and I like cut the story pages out, I'd be okay.
then you'd presumably cut out the artwork as well. You could use them as posters.
Ooh,
'Cause I
actually, I kind of
think
like
they'd
that.
be on the back of the artwork if it's printed.
I kind of like that idea.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Writer Man.
Uh, yeah, because I wouldn't if it prints the other way so that like the artwork is next to the story, then I'd be cutting a bunch of the rules, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But that would be an interesting idea, though, if you had a book where like you had those types of stories, but like the page was what do they call it?
Perforated.
Yeah, so that you could just tear out the pictures and actually put them up on your wall as art.
So
That'd
why
be really
bother
cool.
putting the stories there?
Because some people would choose to leave them in for the stories, and some people would choose to like take the art out and hang it on their wall.
Oh yeah, I guess. Maybe a special edition version of the game. Like a $200 version where you can get perforated pages and leather bound.
Or you could just
I'm actually half serious. Like some people would probably go for that sort of stuff.
well, what I was going to say is if they don't know what their 400% goal is going to be, and they're already going to be paying the person more money at 300% than at 400%, make poster prints of the coolest of the artwork.
Yeah, poster prints of the artwork as stretch goals that you can have as an add-on item. So like people,
And Northern Pod just popped up. So what I'm hearing is you want posters of the artwork as stretch
yeah,
goals.
no,
Like just
100%. Right?
as I was
Have
saying
it
it.
have it as an add-on item on Kickstarter so that people can pay an extra like $20 or whatever to get whatever your costs. I don't know what your costs are for printing a poster and shipping it to Australia because you're in the UK, as far as I can tell. So most expensive shipping destination is Australia. So work out what a
Uh,
poster costs to print and ship to there.
I I
That's
don't
your
I don't
minimum.
know that that would be true because the minute you add a poster, it's no longer a book, which means tariffs kick in to the United States and the price skyrockets.
Oh yeah, good point.
Because that's why I said I wasn't sure about shipping because there are people that will forget to mark that it's a book or they code it wrong, and so then you end up with tariff shipping.
Yeah,
Um, and now instead of it being $12 worth of shipping or £12 worth of shipping, it's like $40 worth of shipping. So
yeah,
anyway,
that's a you problem.
at
Um,
2 hours and 26 minutes, Simon, tell us where we can find you, where you're going to be.
you can find me occasionally playing on Grim streams on YouTube, playing games on the Majestic Goose Network on Twitch. You can find my own channel, which I very rarely post anything to, at Simon's Hobby Table. Or you can find me, I don't know, dox me, you can find me, I guess, like IRL. My real address is out there.
Anyone who wants to put in that much work.
Yeah, genuinely, if you find my address and you show up on my doorstep and you say, "Hey, I'm from Goat's YouTube,"
Will you make them a cuppa?
I'll make them a cup of tea and tell them to piss off. But
You
they'll
make
get a
them a
cup
cup
of
of
tea
tea,
out.
but it'll be to go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Simon, for joining me. Thank you to the chat, and thank you to Northern Par Productions, both for the sneak peek and for being in the chat. I hope everybody had a good time. Once again, for everyone who was not here at the beginning, yes, I got shitty medical news on Friday. Yes, I will talk about it later when I've wrapped my brain around it. Until then, I ask everyone to be patient because while I think I faked it reasonably well over the course of this stream, I'm kind of a fucking mess. Um, but more to follow. I hope everyone has a great night. And tomorrow we're going to be talking zombie games on Slice and Dice. I hope everyone will be there. There's some very interesting, funny ones. Hamster offers ankle hugs. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, I haven't decided if I'm going to make a post or if I'm going to do a video or if I'll just mention it on a live stream. But when I kind of get that far and make the decision, I kind of only want to have to say it once. Um, and then I kind of don't want to talk about it anymore. So, um, but we will keep going as long as we're capable of keeping going. And everyone have a great night and happy headbutting.
It's a fucking goat!
Eclectic Goats got videos of indie authors and cinema love. A passion for the weird and the strange. She's snappily dressed and only slightly deranged. Come and meet the eclectic goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy head hunting, come join the herd. Shows might be a little improper. We've got real zombie, fake whizzes the otter, pizza in one hoof, glass in the other, deciding which role-playing games we will cover. Come and meet the eclectic goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, disciple of horror and the written word. Happy headbutting, come join the herd. Got a thing for black and white screens, crappy horror with low budget scenes. Choose on the history, spits out the law. Time for another whiskey pour. Come and meet the eclectic goat, lover of classics and whiskey notes, Disciple of horror and the written word. Happy head buddy, come join the herd.